So today we're going to look at Sun Salutation A, Surya Namaskar A. Over the coming weeks I'm going to be looking at various different Sun Salutations, A, B, C, D and E. But for now, today we're going to be focusing on A. So Sun Salutation A is kind of like the foundation of hatha yoga and also kind of used as a backbone of a lot of the vinyasa flow that we do. It's a great way for creating movement with breath. It really gets the cardiovascular system moving, the joints warmed up, the muscles awakened. Some traditions do use the Sun Salutations as warm-ups, but I find myself now that I like to warm up before I go into a full Sun Salutation. You know, the jump backs, the hop forwards, they're really strenuous on the wrists. It can be quite an intense practice. So I like to sort of think about modifying the Sun Salutations if that's all I'm doing. If I'm not getting into doing a big practice and I'm just haven't got much time and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to do sort of 5 rounds of Sun Salutation just to focus, bring my mind back to the body, and etc., like I'm always saying. Then I will tend to modify the Sun Salutations, putting knees down, you know, just making what adjustments you can to make it more accessible before you start to really throw yourself into it. So Sun Salutation is not always full of accessible movements for everybody, so modification is the key to really move forward with your Sun Salutations. So I'm going to go through each pose and break it down. Then we're going to go through the modifications and then kind of build up to a few rounds that we can repeat together. So this part of the video you're not going to need to watch every time. So what I'm going to try and do is when I upload it, actually put a marker of where you want to go to actually watch the video to just do the Sun Salutations with me. So you don't have to listen to this bit all the time. The next videos I'm going to do, I won't put as much breakdown into it. But for this one, you know, I think it's really kind of important to learn where you can modify and really stabilise your practice before you just sort of throw yourselves into it. So we start at the top of the mat in Tadasana, which is mountain pose. So Tada basically translates to mountain, so Tadasana, mountain pose. I don't teach with the Sanskrit. Generally I use the English translations. I just find them easier. My pronunciation of Sanskrit is not amazing, but it is kind of a good thing to know. It's a way to honour the ancient tradition, to kind of familiarise yourself with the Sanskrit names, if that's somewhere you want to go and deepen your knowledge of yoga. So we start in Tadasana. Then we go from there, Ardha Hastasana. Ardha means upward, Hast means hand, so you've got your upward hand pose. So you want to think of anything with Ardha in it as being upward, and it's all about elevating and lifting upwards. Okay, so we're reaching out through the rib cage, really reaching the arms up. We'll go through it a little bit more in detail in a moment. So then you come into Uttanasana, the forward bend. So my translation might not be great here, but Ut means intensity and Tanas, the asana is posture. The bit in the middle is stretch, extend, lengthen. So you would extend and lengthen into your forward bend. We have next the Ardha Uttanasana, which is the halfway lift. So Ardha meaning half. Uttanasana is you're still in a forward bend, you're just half lifting. Then we come back into Chaturanga Dandasana, which translates into 4-limb staff pose. So you've got your Chada is 4, Ranga is limb, sorry, bear with me, I'm trying to remember, and the Dand is stick or staff. Generally we say Chaturanga when we're doing a sun salutation. That is the only one we don't kind of translate because it flows better than saying 4-limb staff pose. Chaturanga, just one word. So that's what that means. Then we come into Ardha Mukha Shavasana. So there's a little bit of a blah, 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 as you say it. Ardha Mukha Shavasana. So the Ardha is upward again, like Ardha Hastasana, upward. So you're lifting your heart upward. Mukha being facing, face, and Svana is dog. Asana again is posture. So Ardha Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. Then we go into Adho, which means downward. Adho Mukha Svanasana, so downward facing dog. Then we'll hold for 3 breaths. Then you come back forwards into your Uttanasana with the half lift, Ardha Uttanasana, bow forwards, Uttanasana, upward stretching, Ardha Hastasana, and we bring our hands to our heart, Samastiti. Again, mountain pose. So that's basically the translations. So yeah, we'll go through some modifications, how you can find your alignment in certain positions, and then we'll run through a few together. So we're going to start at the top of the mat in Tadasana. Make any adjustments that you need to make. Take a full breath in and breathe out. Breathing in, reach the arms up, Ardha Hastasana, upward stretching. So we're really stretching upwards. As we exhale, Uttanasana. So soften the knees, weight in the toes as you fold forwards. Now you can always have blocks or a chair just by the top of the mat. Fold down to your blocks. If you find that you kind of feel very rounded in the spine or the hamstrings are particularly tight. So we don't want to push the weight back into the heels and jam into the hamstring attachments. Weight forwards in the toes, so keep the knees bent if you find you're really overly rounding, if you're very tight in the lower back. If you can start to straighten the legs, that's good, but don't lean back. Make sure the weight stays forwards in the toes. So one of the common mistakes that we see when you come from your forward fold to your Ardha Uttanasana, your halfway lift, is that you lift the chest, weight goes back into the heels and the legs straighten and you jam into your hamstring attachments at the back of the knees. It's really, really common, sit all the time. So we want to try and avoid doing that. Otherwise you're just kind of building up that muscle memory, that bad form. It's going to keep happening. So keep the knees slightly bent and the weight forwards in the toes. Now a good way to test that you're not doing that is just to place a block behind your calf so your shins are parallel. So then when you come into your half lift, if you're pushing your weight back, you're going to tip your blocks. So you want to keep the weight forwards in the toes so the blocks don't move. Okay, also a good idea to kind of get used to doing when you're in a forward fold is just feel like you're trying to push your heels outwards towards the edge of the mat. Okay, don't overthink it too much just for the basis of this video, but really finding your foundation into the ground. Feel like you're pushing your heels outwards. It's going to help to engage the muscle of the hamstring, keep it protected in any forward fold, so you'll be less likely to damage anything. Okay, so from your half lift, then we bring the hands to the floor and step back to plank, and then from plank it's chaturanga. So it's a really hard movement to find in the shoulder girdle, so it can cause a lot of problems in the shoulders because they want to droop forwards. So you have to kind of find these sort of contradicting movements of where you're kind of pushing down into the ground, retracting your shoulder blades, but also trying to protract them at the same time. So a good way to learn is at the wall. So you can bring your hands flat onto the wall. You want to kind of get this feeling for squeezing the elbows in towards the rib cage, so they're not rolling out to the side. If the elbows start to roll out to the side, your arms are internally rotating. So you want to externally rotate your upper arm bones. And then retract the shoulders down the back, but also protract them at the same time, like you're trying to straighten your arms. So your elbows stay in line with your wrists. And then this will just help you find your form and that idea of retracting, externally rotating and protracting all at the same time. And then once you're kind of used to doing it at the wall, my suggestion and what I always do to warm up is to drop down onto the knees. So from your plank pose, gripping the mat with your fingertips, bring the knees down, untuck the toes, shift the shoulders forwards, externally rotate your upper arm bones, so you're wrapping the eye of the elbow towards the front of the room, and then shoulders retract as you bend the elbows, protract. So you don't need to come down too far. It's much more important to find the correct engagement and activation in the muscles and the alignment rather than letting this droop down. So again, sometimes the mistakes that we see would be to kind of bypass chaturanga altogether because it's hard. So you kind of get into this bad form. So you're just sort of missing that pose out and swinging the hips forward. So it is a pose of its own. So take the time to familiarise yourself with it, get stable in it before you then do it with the knees lifted, shoulders forwards, bending the elbows, arm bones are externally rotated, shoulders are retracting so they're not drooping forwards but protracting at the same time. Okay, then you can come down onto your belly and just take a low cobra as a modification. So there's no need to go into a full upward facing dog if it's not comfortable. So think about squeezing the shoulder blades together and then sliding them down towards your hips. So the heart is reaching forwards and up. So generally in my classes, I don't use a lot of upward dogs because, I'll show you in a minute, you're using more flexibility in the lower back, keeping the chest parallel to the wall. So generally people suffer with more stiffness in their upper back. So that's why I would use cobras a lot more than upward dogs, because that's generally where people need the help. They need to train those muscles to be stronger and more flexible, which is what you're going to get in a cobra rather than an upward dog. But traditionally, we would go from chaturanga to upward dog. So if you're still learning with your chaturanga, lower to the belly, take a low cobra. If you prefer to do upward dog from the ground, you can come up to your knees, then slide the hips forwards, then engage the legs, lifting the knees from the ground. So that's how you can transition that way with the knees down. And I normally do when I'm warming up. If you come from your full chaturanga to the ground, to sort of halfway, you can untuck the toes, pull the heart forwards between the arms and lift the chest. Okay, you can also do that from your knees. So if you've lowered through your chaturanga with the knees down, then pull the hips towards the wrists, push the hands down, lift the knees. Okay, so from there we go into downward dog. So a couple of variations. Some people just roll over the toes. We lead with the sit bones to lift the hips into downward dog. That's not always an easy task. I've got very bendy toes, so it's not an issue for me, but some people find that really, really hard. So from upward dog, you can either just step the toes, tuck them under, or you can bring the knees down, tuck the toes, hips up and back. So either way is fine. Hips up. We're in downward dog. So we hold downward dog for 3 breaths generally. Before we run through a practice, I just kind of wanted to explain what happens to your body in downward dog. So you've got your shoulders in extension. So the shoulder blades do lift up. So we don't want to physically try and pull them down, because it's not going to help the shoulders in any way. You want to try and spread the shoulders across the back. Okay, we always say externally rotate the upper arms. Now if you just reach your arm up and then externally rotate it, see how your palm moves, just look at your hand, externally rotate your upper arm. Your hand wants to move as well, so you've got to try and figure out a way to externally rotate your upper arm to spread your shoulder blades across the back, but keep them elevated up towards the ears, not like overly elevated, but they'll just go that way naturally. If you lift your arms over your head, you feel your shoulders lift. So you don't want to pull them down, you let them lift, externally rotate your upper arm to spread the shoulder blades, the scapula across the back. Okay, arms up, shoulder blades elevate, externally rotate, they spread. That's what you want to find that's really going to build strength and stability in your downward dog. The hard bit is that you're externally rotating your upper arm, internally rotating your lower arm. So you really need to push the inner side of the hand down into the ground to find that rotation of the inner arm and external rotation of the upper arm. So if you don't have much mobility in your radial ulnar joint, that's your radial bone and your ulnar bone, and they meet in a joint in the wrist, if you don't have that much mobility there, the hand is going to want to lift from the ground. So what you really want to try and push the thumb, index finger, little finger down into the ground. So you've got an even spread of weight through the hand. If that doesn't happen and this knuckle keeps lifting, try just turning the hands out a little bit, taking the hands a little bit wider if it's down to stiffness in the shoulders. So we take our hands really wide, push down into the thumb and the little finger. So you've got an equal spread of weight through the hands. Then you want to grip the mat with your 3 other fingers, and if you overextend, if you feel any pain in your wrists, can be a couple of things that can often you don't realise. The cushion of the mat, as you're pushing your hands down, can make you overextend in your wrists, in your wrist flexors here, in the extension of the wrist. So we want to try and just lift the heel of the hand. It's really, really hard. So try and get a feel for it on hands and knees. Push the little finger, index finger into the ground and your thumb and grip the mat with your fingertips, with the pads of your fingers, and then just feel. Now you don't want to lift the heel of the hand off the floor, but just feel for like lifting up, like you could just pass a breath underneath the hand, and you're pushing your carpal joints into the ground, so the pads of your knuckles into the ground. Don't let that lift. So you really want to find that attachment to the ground as well. And then you'll feel how much that strengthens up your wrists, this part of your wrists. Okay, it's a really big deal to me, makes a really big difference, and I get used to doing it now that I kind of come into that position quite naturally in my downward dog. I'm not saying that you're going to, but it's just something to be aware of if you suffer pain in the wrists. It's something that you could maybe practice to build a little bit more strength into the wrists and not sink down into this part of your hand. So anyway, that being said, where were we? Downward dog. So your shoulders are elevating, your upper arm bones are externally rotating, the lower arm is internally rotating. So you're pushing your thumb, your little finger and your index finger really firmly into the ground, and the pads of the fingertips grip the mat, and then the pads, like where the knuckles are, pushing down into the ground. So then make sure you're not sinking into your shoulder joints. If you're doing all that with your arms, you shouldn't be able to sink into your shoulders. And then we want to keep lifting the sit bones up, so you're finding an anterior tilt in the pelvis, think like a cow tilt. So don't worry if the legs don't straighten. Sometimes we try to straighten the legs and push the heels down, and rounds us through the back. So you're best to leave your heels lifted, even bend the knees. Push the inner thighs back towards the back of the room. Feel like you're pushing your heels out towards the side of the mat. Just really get all that kind of engagement going on. We stay for 3 breaths. Then we look forwards, lift the heels to prepare, and walk the feet to the hands back into our forward fold. Then we come into a half lift and fold, and then come all the way back up to standing, hands to the heart. So that's kind of how you would modify your Sun Salutation A to really get familiar with it. Now, once you've got used to that, you might want to start doing jump backs and jump forwards. Okay, I'm not brilliant at these myself, but I'll tell you what I've learned as I've kind of gone through. So say we've done our upward stretch and our forward fold and our half lift, and then you jump back and you land in chaturanga. So you want to make sure you jump back, you land with bent elbows, not straight elbows into plank. You might jar your shoulders. So from our forward fold, half lift, plant the hands on the floor, externally rotate the upper arms, internally rotate the lower arms, and you look forward. So it's about extension. So you want to extend forwards, not just back. Okay, if you just go back, everything's going to be heavy, plop on the floor. So you want to find lightness, you want to extend forwards and back. So you can always, find something, a coin, a strap, whatever, in a half lift, pop it down where your chin would be. Okay, so then as you jump, you want to think you're extending your chin forwards of that as you extend the legs back. And then to jump forwards, you want to think about lifting the heels, bending the knees. And then we jump actually with no breath. So you exhale out all the breath, hop forwards, inhale to a half lift. So the jump forwards again should be quite light. You should be able to land quite softly. It takes a lot of practice. Just practice. Okay, so I hope that covers up all the modifications that you can do through your traditional Sun A. We're going to run through 5 rounds of Sun Salutations and really connect the movement with the breath. So start at the top of the mat into Tadasana. Full breath in and a full breath out. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back to plank and lower through Chaturanga. Inhale, low cobra, cobra or up dog. Exhale, downward dog. Stay for 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, look forwards. Exhale the breath out. At the end of the out breath, step forwards to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach up to the sun. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reach up to the sun. Exhale, soften the knees, lead with the heart as you fold forwards. Inhale, lift the chest, halfway lift. Exhale, step back and lower, Chaturanga. Inhale, cobra, up dog, whatever you prefer. Exhale to downward dog. Externally rotate your upper arms. Push down through the thumb, little finger. Grip the mat with your other 3 fingers. Just feel that slight lift of the palm of the hand, the heel of the hand. Stay for another breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, look forwards to prepare. Exhale, step forwards to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow over the legs. Inhale, reach up to the sun. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, upward stretching. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop back, Chaturanga. Inhale, low cobra, cobra or up dog. Exhale, downward dog. 3 breaths here. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, look forwards. Exhale. At the end of the breath, step or hop forwards. Inhale, halfway lift the chest. Exhale, bow over the legs. Inhale, reach up to the sun. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, bow forwards. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop back, chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog or cobra, low cobra. Exhale to downward dog. Anterior tilt the pelvis. Externally rotate your upper arms. Stay for another breath. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the sensations of the breath. Inhale, lift the heels, bend the knees, look forwards. Exhale, step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift the chest, halfway lift. Exhale, bow over the legs. Inhale, rise to the sun. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop back, chaturanga. Inhale, upward dog, low cobra. Exhale to downward dog. Inhale, exhale. Feel the sensations in the body. Inhale, exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. Lift the heels, bend the knees, look forwards to prepare. At the end of the exhale, hop or step to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow forwards. Inhale, reach up to the sun. Exhale, hands to the heart. Either, if you're in the flow, just keep going, or I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.